understand that leveraged loans make up the majority and the senior tranches of LBO debt, and they are typically syndicated to banks and or institutional investors. So let's take a look at some of the LBOs that have happened recently and kind of see what the capital structure, how term loans and revolving credit lines, which we sort of in aggregate call the senior debt, bank debt, or leveraged loans, make up the capital structure. So in Carlyle's $4.15 billion ortho clinical LBO, the senior secured institutional loan was split between a $2.175 billion 7-year term loan B and a $350 million 5-year revolver. It was priced at LIBOR plus 375 with a 1% LIBOR floor. Ortho also issued, lower down on the capital structure, a $1.3 billion bond with a higher interest rate, 6.625%, due much later in 2022. So understand that this is actually quite typical. If you've got a term loan that's raised by institutional investors, it will have usually an attached revolving credit line. So it's really the loan package, as it's called, is usually comprised of two things: a term loan, and the same investors are also providing a revolver or committing to fund a revolver. Okay. And the revolver, the relationship between the revolver and the term loan, sometimes they have usually have very similar terms. The revolver tends to be a little bit cheaper. If there is a difference, it's going to be priced a little bit lower because it tends to be secured by more liquid assets. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the terms are usually actually what's called coterminous. They're the same terms. Not always the case, as you see here. It was a 7-year term loan and a 5-year revolver. And notice they don't have a term loan A. One thing to kind of keep in mind is the term loan A versus term loan B is a distinction that is more indicative of the investor base. Term loan B refers to when the loan is syndicated to institutional investors, as opposed to term loan A, which tends to refer to term loans that are syndicated to banks. And term loan A's tend to have the feature where there's more principal amortization. Term loan B's tend to have less principal amortization over the life of the term loan. Those are the general contours and differences between term loan A and then all the others. So B, C, and D tends to refer to institutional investors as opposed to anything else about seniority. You'll have a deal where there's no term loan A. You might even have deals where there's a term loan C that's senior to term loan B. Okay, so in fact, we're going to look at one of those in just a moment. So loans in Blackstone's $5.4 billion Gates LBO. So that included a $2.5 billion and 200 million euro term loan. So 2 term loan tranches, respectively, both 7-year terms. A $125 million cash flow revolver, meaning the revolver is tied to how much cash flow you generate in terms of covenants, whereas they also had a asset-based revolver, which is tied to a certain amount of assets you have, usually inventories and accounts receivable in terms of the availability. So both were 5 years. Term loans will be covenant light. There's also a lower down on the capital structure, a $1 billion bond with a 6% coupon, a 200 euro bond with a 5.75% coupon. Notice they are called senior notes, but they are not senior to the leveraged loans. This is senior presumably to any other borrowing, any other bond that's going to be unsecured via some intercreditor agreement. But they're not going to be senior to the secured loans.